The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the Frontier Dawn. Captain Jake Morrison stood watching the endless black space, thinking about how quiet things had been lately. His ship was on a routine patrol through the outer systems, checking trade routes and making sure everything was running smoothly. Jake had been commanding Earth ships for 15 years now. He remembered when humans first joined the Galactic Council, how excited everyone was to be part of something bigger. The other alien races had welcomed Earth with careful politeness, but Jake could tell they thought humans were just another peaceful species looking for trade partners. "Captain, we're getting a transmission," said Lieutenant Amy Chen from the communications station. Her voice had an edge to it that made Jake turn around quickly. "Put it through," Jake said, walking over to the main screen. The image that appeared made Jake's stomach tighten. A tall, thin alien with soft green skin and large, frightened eyes was speaking rapidly in broken galactic standard. Jake recognized the species. Veltar, one of the most peaceful races in the galaxy. They were famous for growing amazing plants and never fighting with anyone. "Please, anyone who receives this message," the Veltar was saying, his voice shaking. "Our world is under attack." They came from nowhere. Ships in the sky, armed beings on our ground. We have no weapons, no soldiers. We grow things, we study plants, we know nothing of war. Please, if anyone can help us, we are dying. The transmission cut off to static. Jake stared at the blank screen for a long moment. "Amy, did you get coordinates from that signal?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Kepler 442b, about 6 days from our current position." Jake nodded slowly. He knew about Kepler 442b. It was a garden world where the Veltar had built their cities in harmony with the massive jungle forests. They had never hurt anyone, never taken anything that wasn't freely given. The idea of someone attacking them made Jake angry in a way that surprised him. "Send a message to Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Tell them we received a distress call from Kepler 442b and request permission to investigate." "Sir," said Commander Ryan Phillips, Jake's second in command. "Shouldn't we report this to the Galactic Council first? They handle military situations." Jake almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Ryan, you know how the council works. They'll form a committee to discuss forming another committee. By the time they decide to help, those plant farmers will be dead or enslaved." Ryan nodded grimly. He had seen how slowly the council moved before. Their last meeting had taken 3 weeks just to decide what color to paint their new building. The reply from Earth Command came back faster than Jake expected. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez appeared on the screen, her dark eyes serious. "Jake, I've been monitoring council channels," she said. "The attack on Kepler 442b is real. Intelligence reports say it's the Kethvar Syndicate, nasty bunch of pirates who make their money selling slaves. The council is aware, but their nearest fleet is 3 weeks out minimum." Jake felt his hands clench into fists. 3 weeks. Those peaceful plant growers would be gone by then. "Admiral, request permission to respond immediately," Jake said. "We can be there in 6 days." Admiral Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. Jake could see her thinking, weighing the risks. Finally, she nodded. "Permission granted, Captain. I'm also sending you backup. The Steel Resolve and Iron Will are 2 days behind you, but they'll catch up. This could be our chance to show the galaxy what Earth stands for." "Understood, Admiral. We won't let you down." As the transmission ended, Jake turned to his crew. These were good people, trained professionals who had signed up to protect human interests in space. But now they were about to do something different. They were going to protect aliens who couldn't protect themselves. "Amy, send word to the other ships. Tell Commander Phillips on the Steel Resolve and Captain Foster on the Iron Will to meet us at Kepler 442b at maximum speed." "Already done, sir," Amy replied with a small smile. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was ready. Lieutenant Danny Wright at the weapons station was running system checks. Dr. Helen Parker was reviewing what she knew about Veltar biology in case there were wounded to treat. Navigator Tony Blake was already plotting the fastest course to the troubled world. "Take us to jump speed," Jake ordered. "Let's go help some farmers." The Frontier Dawn leaped forward into hyperspace, leaving the peaceful starfield behind. Jake stood at the front window, watching the swirling colors of jump space. He thought about the frightened Veltar in the transmission, about pirates who made money from other people's suffering, about the slow-moving council that would arrive too late to matter. Earth had joined the Galactic Council to be part of a civilized community. But sometimes being civilized meant fighting for those who couldn't fight for themselves. The council would learn soon enough what humans were, really capable of when innocent people needed help. 6 days to reach, Kepler 442b. 6 days to save a world. Full of peaceful plant growers from pirates and slavers. Jake had fought pirates before, back when he was a younger officer protecting Earth trade ships. But this would be different. This time he wasn't just protecting cargo or trade routes. This time he was going to war to protect an entire species that had never known what war meant. "Captain," Amy called out, "we're getting more transmissions from Kepler 442b. The situation is getting worse." Jake listened to the scattered, desperate messages from the Veltar world. Their beautiful jungle cities were burning. Thousands of their people were already captured. The pirates were setting up processing camps to sort their new slaves by size and strength. "How long until the other ships join us?" Jake asked. "Steel Resolve will reach us in 36 hours. Iron will about 6 hours after that," Tony reported. Jake nodded. When those ships arrived, he would have 600 human soldiers, Marines, and crew members under his command, against an unknown number of pirates who were already on the ground with their victims. The odds didn't matter. The Veltar had called for help, and Earth's people had answered. Whatever happened next, the galaxy was about to learn something new about the species from the blue world that everyone thought was just another peaceful civilization looking to make friends and trade crops. They were about to learn what happened when you hurt the innocent in front of humans. The Steel Resolve and Iron Will caught up with the Frontier Dawn just as they reached the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Jake looked at his tactical display and felt his anger grow cold and hard in his chest. 12 enemy ships were in orbit around the green and blue world below. Some were large warships, others looked like transport vessels probably full of captured Veltar. The biggest ship, a massive dark thing covered in weapon ports, sat right over the main continent like a metal moon. "That's the Bloodclaw," said Commander Ryan Phillips, reading from his intelligence files. "Flagship of Warlord Thakmor. He's wanted by half the governments in this sector for slavery, murder, and worse things." Jake opened a channel to his other ship commanders. Captain Amy Foster from the Iron Will appeared on his left screen, her blonde hair pulled back and her blue eyes hard as steel. Commander Phillips from the Steel Resolve filled the right screen, his dark face grim but ready. "What's the situation down there?" Jake asked. "Bad," Amy replied, studying her sensor readings. "I'm picking up energy signatures from at least 20 ground bases. Looks like they've built processing camps near the major Veltar cities. Estimated enemy ground forces around 10,000. 10,000, Phillips repeated quietly. "Against our 600, Jake almost smiled. Phillips was new to this kind of work, transferred from a peaceful exploration vessel just 6 months ago. He was about to learn what human soldiers could really do when they had a good reason to fight. "Amy, send a message to all enemy vessels," Jake ordered. "Standard terms." Amy nodded and opened all communication channels. Her voice was calm and professional as she spoke into her microphone. "This is the Earth Alliance fleet. You are in violation of Galactic Council law and are holding innocent civilians against their will. You have 60 seconds to withdraw from this system or we will remove you." The response came back fast, filled with harsh laughter. A huge alien face appeared on the main screen, Thakmor himself. His skin was dark red with black markings and his mouth was full of sharp teeth. When he spoke, it was in heavily accented Galactic Standard. Little Deathworlders think they can scare Thakmor. The warlord's laughter was like grinding metal. 3 tiny ships against my fleet. I will add your bones to my collection and sell your people alongside the plant growers. Jake had heard enough. Amy, tactical assessment. Bloodclaw has heavy shields and weapons, but she's old and slow. The smaller ships look fast but lightly armored. They're spread out, probably not expecting serious resistance. Phillips, what's your Marine complement? 200 Marines aboard Steel Resolve, sir. Colonel Steve Martinez commanding. They're ready to go. Jake looked at the tactical display one more time. 12 enemy ships, thousands of pirates on the ground, an unknown number of captured Veltar who needed immediate help. Amy, take the Iron Will straight at the Bloodclaw. Full speed, all weapons. Phillips, your ship provides cover fire and launches Marines as soon as we clear the orbital defenses. Frontier Dawn will handle the escort ships. Sir, Phillips said carefully, shouldn't we try to contact the Council fleet? Get backup? The backup is 3 weeks out, Commander. Those people down there don't have 3 weeks. They might not have 3 hours. Jake turned to his weapons officer. Danny, arm all torpedo tubes. Amy Chen, open a channel to the fleet. Channel open, sir. Jake looked at the enemy ships on his screen and thought about the frightened Veltar in that first transmission, about peaceful plant growers who had never hurt anyone, now being sorted like cargo for slave markets. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. The beings down there called for help and we answered. Show these pirates what happens when they hurt innocent people in front of humans. Attack pattern Delta, engage! The 3 Earth ships accelerated toward the enemy fleet like arrows shot from the same bow. The pirates had been expecting negotiation, maybe some cautious maneuvering while the humans called for backup that would never come in time. They weren't expecting humans to attack immediately with no warning, no hesitation and no fear. The Iron Will hit the Bloodclaw first. Amy had angled her approach so perfectly that the enemy flagship's weapons couldn't track her ship's movement. She fired every torpedo she had right into the Bloodclaw's main reactor section, then kept going at full speed. What happened next shocked everyone watching on both sides. Instead of pulling away after the attack, Amy rammed the Iron Will directly through the center of the massive pirate ship. The Bloodclaw split in half with the explosion that lit up half the system. Pieces of metal and burning atmosphere scattered in all directions. The Iron Will came out the other side damaged but intact, already turning to attack the next target. Jake watched his friend destroy a ship 5 times her size and felt proud and worried at the same time. Amy, report. Iron Will is functional. Hull damage but nothing critical. That ugly ship won't be bothering anyone else. The escort ships were trying to recover from their shock when the Frontier Dawn was among them. Jake's crew had trained for this kind of fight. Fast ships, close quarters, no room for mistakes. Danny Wright's weapons fire was precise and deadly, hitting engines and weapon systems with surgical accuracy. Within minutes, 3 more pirate ships were drifting powerless in space. Phillips had watched the orbital battle with amazement, but now it was his turn. The Steel Resolve moved into position over the main continent and began launching drop pods toward the planet's surface. Colonel Martinez, you have green light for ground operations, Phillips announced. Copy that, Commander. Marines are away. 200 human Marines in powered armor fell toward Kepler 4142b like metal rain. They had studied the layout of the pirate camps, identified where the Veltar prisoners were being held, and planned their assault during the 6-day journey to this world. Jake watched the tactical display as his Marines hit the ground and immediately began moving toward their objectives. No hesitation, no regrouping, no waiting for backup. They had people to save and pirates to remove. The enemy ground forces had been watching the space battle in shock. Now they were about to discover something that would be talked about in pirate bars and military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. They were about to fight humans who were angry. Sir, Amy Chen reported, I'm getting transmissions from the surface. Sounds like our Marines have made contact. Jake listened to the brief professional reports from his ground forces. Objective 1 secured, prisoners freed. Objective 2 under attack, enemy forces retreating. Objective 3 surrounded, surrender or die. In less than 2 hours, the space around Kepler 442b had gone from enemy-controlled to completely secure. The legendary Kethvar Syndicate, terror of 3 star systems, had been destroyed by 600 humans who couldn't stand to see innocent people hurt. Captain, said Dr. Helen Parker, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's the Veltar. The face that appeared on screen was still green and gentle, but now the large eyes were filled with wonder instead of fear. Human friends, the alien said in his careful galactic standard. You came. You actually came to help us. Jake looked at the grateful alien and felt something settle in his chest. This was why Earth had joined the Galactic Council. Not for trade deals or technology exchanges, but for moments like this. We're here, Jake said simply. You're safe now. Colonel Steve Martinez landed on Kepler 442b with the first wave of Marines. The moment his boots hit the jungle floor, he could smell smoke and fear in the thick, humid air. Through the massive trees that rose like green towers around him, he could see the glow of fires where the beautiful Veltar cities were burning. Squad leaders, report in, Steve said into his comm unit. Alpha Squad ready. Sir, came Sergeant Danny Wright's voice. We can see the first prison camp about 2 kilometers north. Beta Squad in position, reported Lieutenant Kate Sullivan. Multiple enemy contacts moving toward your location, Colonel. Steve checked his tactical display. The pirates had built their camps in clearings between the enormous trees, using the Veltar's own peaceful cities as processing centers for their slave operation. Intel suggested over 3,000 Veltar prisoners spread across 20 different sites. All squads remember the mission, Steve said. Prisoners first, pirates second. These people have never seen war before. We move fast and clean. Steve led his team through the jungle toward the nearest camp. The plant life was incredible. Flowers as big as dinner plates, vines thick as his arm, trees so tall they disappeared into misty green darkness above. He could see why the Veltar loved this world. It was like a living paradise, which made what the pirates were doing to it even worse. The first prison camp came into view through the trees. Steve felt his jaw tighten at what he saw. Hundreds of Veltar sat in metal cages barely big enough to hold them, their green skin pale with fear and exhaustion. HFY guards walked between the cages with energy weapons, talking and laughing like they were discussing the weather instead of people's lives. Danny, take your squad around to the left. Kate, circle right. Wait for my signal. Steve watched his people move into position. These Marines had trained together for years, fought together in a dozen small conflicts around Earth space. But this was different. This was the first time they were fighting to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. All squads ready, Colonel. Kate's voice was calm and professional. Go. The attack was over in minutes. The pirates were tough fighters, used to terrorizing helpless civilians and weak planetary defenses. They weren't ready for human Marines who moved through the jungle like they were born in it, who fought with a precision and intensity that seemed impossible. Steve's squad hit the camp from the front while Danny and Kate struck from the sides. The HFY guards never had a chance to organize a defense. Within 6 minutes, the camp was secure, and Steve was personally opening the first prisoner cage. The Veltar inside looked up at him with large, frightened eyes. Steve had read about their species. They were biologically incapable of violence, couldn't even understand the concept of hurting another living thing. Looking at this gentle being who had been caged like an animal, Steve felt a cold anger settle in his bones. You're safe now, he said in careful Galactic standard, offering his hand to help the Veltar stand. My name is Steve. We're here to take you home. The Veltar stared at Steve's armored form, at the weapons he carried, at the scattered bodies of the guards who would never hurt anyone again. Instead of fear, Steve saw something like wonder in those large eyes. You fought for us? People you have never met? Yes, Steve said simply. That's what friends do. As his Marines freed the other prisoners, Steve got reports from the other squads scattered across the planet. The story was the same everywhere. Human forces moving through the jungle like ghosts, hitting the camps with surgical precision, freeing prisoners and eliminating threats with ruthless efficiency. Colonel, came Danny's voice over the comm, we've got a problem at Camp 7. The pirates are using prisoners as shields, threatening to kill them if we attack. Steve felt his blood go cold. Using innocent people as shields was something that made humans very angry. Very quickly.
How many hostiles?
About 50, sir. They've got maybe 200 Veltar civilians locked in a building, weapons pointed at the doors. I'm on my way, Steve said. He turned to Kate, who was helping wounded Veltar into a medical transport. Take charge here. Make sure everyone gets back to their families. Steve moved through the jungle faster than should have been possible for someone wearing full combat armor, but humans had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill them, where only the fast and strong survived. Moving through a garden paradise like Kepler 442b felt easy compared to the deathworld they called home. He found Danny's squad positioned around a large building that looked like it had once been some kind of Veltar community center. Through the windows, Steve could see the pirates holding weapons on cowering civilians. The situation was exactly as bad as he'd feared. Danny, what's their leader saying? Typical pirate nonsense, Colonel. Demanding safe passage off planet in exchange for the hostages. Says he'll start killing one prisoner every 10 minutes if we don't pull back. Steve studied the building through his scope. The pirates were experienced fighters, but they'd made a critical mistake. They were thinking like people who fought for money and personal gain. They couldn't understand that they were now facing people who fought for something much more dangerous, the protection of the innocent. Kate, are you monitoring this? Yes, sir, came Lieutenant Sullivan's voice over the comm. I've got a squad moving to the back of the building now. Danny, give them 2 more minutes, then I want smoke grenades through every window. Full assault, all sides simultaneously. Sir, Danny said carefully. The hostages. We'll be fine, Steve said with complete confidence. These pirates think they understand humans because they've seen peaceful exploration crews and diplomatic missions. They're about to learn the difference between humans who choose to be gentle and humans who choose to fight. The attack came from 4 directions at once. Smoke filled the building as human marines moved through windows and doors like deadly shadows. The pirates had expected negotiations, gradual maneuvering, careful attempts to minimize casualties. They got humans moving at full combat speed with the lives of innocent people at stake. The building was secure in under 3 minutes. Every pirate was down, every hostage was safe. Steve walked through the smoke-filled rooms, checking on the freed Veltar prisoners, making sure his marines had suffered no casualties. "Colonel," called one of his marines, "you need to see this." Steve followed the marine to a side room where they had found something that made his anger burn even hotter. Records detailed lists of captured Veltar with prices assigned based on their size, health, and skills. Plans for slave markets, shipping schedules, profit calculations. These pirates had been treating gentle plant growers like cargo. "Sir," Danny's voice came over the comm. "We're getting reports from all squads. 20 camps hit, over 3,000 prisoners freed. The enemy ground forces are either eliminated or surrendering." Steve looked around at the freed Veltar, who were helping each other stand and move toward the exits. One of them, an elderly being with silver markings on his green skin, approached Steve slowly. "Human warrior," the Veltar said in careful galactic standard. "My name is Simthara. I speak for our people. We have never seen anything like what you have done today." "We just helped people who needed help," Steve replied. "No," Simthara said, shaking his head. "You fought for beings you had never met, risked your lives for people who could give you nothing in return. In all our studies of the galaxy, we have never encountered a species that would do such a thing." Steve looked at the wonder in the old Veltar's eyes and realized that something important had just happened. Not just the rescue of prisoners or the defeat of pirates, but the first time the galaxy had seen what humans really were when innocent people needed protection. "Sir," came Kate's voice over the comm, "Captain Morrison is requesting a full report. Looks like we've got council ships arriving in system." Steve smiled grimly. The slow-moving council fleet was finally arriving, just in time to see the aftermath of a battle they'd been too bureaucratic to prevent. The galaxy was about to learn some interesting things about the species from the blue world that everyone had underestimated. News of the Battle of Kepler 442b spread through the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Within days, every species in the Galactic Council was talking about what the humans had done. 600 humans had defeated 10,000 pirates in less than 48 hours, rescued 3,000 prisoners, and completely destroyed one of the most feared criminal organizations in the sector. Dr. Helen Parker sat in her temporary lab in the main Veltar city, trying to understand what she was seeing. The alien scientists around her were gentle, intelligent beings who had spent their lives studying plants and growing things, but they kept asking her the same questions over and over. "How do humans move so fast in combat?" asked Veltar scientist Kree Mora, his large eyes filled with confusion. "Your people fought like they could see the future, like they knew what the enemy would do before the enemy knew." Helen looked up from the biological samples she was studying. "We evolved differently than you did," she said carefully. "Your people evolved on a peaceful world where cooperation was always the best strategy. Humans evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill us, including other humans." The Veltar scientists exchanged looks that Helen was learning to recognize as their version of shock. "You fought your own species?" asked another scientist, Velandra. "While still developing intelligence?" "For hundreds of thousands of years," Helen confirmed. "We learned to work together in small groups while competing against other groups. It made us very good at predicting what enemies might do, because we spent so long being enemies to each other." Helen's communicator buzzed with an incoming message. "Dr. Parker, this is Captain Morrison. Could you join me on the ship? We've got some interesting visitors." Helen excused herself from the fascinated Veltar scientists and took a transport shuttle back to the Frontier Dawn. When she arrived on the bridge, she found Jake talking to 3 different alien species she didn't recognize. "Helen," Jake said, turning to greet her, "meet Ambassador Zakral of the Hegemony, Counselor Tavira from the Rim Worlds, and Representative Kix from the Mineral Syndicates." Helen nodded politely to each alien. She recognized their species from her xenobiology studies. The hegemony were a proud warrior culture. The rim worlds were traders and diplomats, and the mineral syndicates were known for their advanced technology. "Dr. Parker," said Ambassador Jikral in his gravelly voice, "we have been studying the reports from your battle here. My people are warriors. We understand combat. But what your humans did was beyond our experience. How so?" Helen asked, genuinely curious. "Your forces showed no fear," Counselor Tavera said, her melodic voice puzzled. "Even our bravest soldiers show some fear in combat. It is natural, biological. But the recordings from this battle show humans fighting with complete calm, as if death held no meaning for them." Jake and Helen exchanged looks. "It's not that we don't feel fear," Jake said carefully. "We just learn to function through it. When you evolve on a world where danger is constant, you either learn to act despite fear or you don't survive to pass on your genes." Representative Kix leaned forward, his metallic voice curious. "Our analysis suggests your homeworld Earth is classified as a Class 2 deathworld. How is it possible for an intelligent species to evolve under such conditions?" Helen smiled. "That's exactly why we evolved the way we did. Earth didn't make us weak, it made us adaptable. We learned to survive floods, earthquakes, ice ages, predators, diseases, and most importantly, each other. Every challenge made us stronger." "But the combat recordings show something else," Ambassador Jikral said, studying his datapad. "Your warriors fought with precise coordination, perfect timing, absolute trust in each other. How do you develop such cooperation among a species that evolved through competition?" "That's the interesting part," Helen replied. "Humans learn to compete as groups, not as individuals. We fight together against threats, whether those threats are natural disasters, dangerous animals, or other human groups. The same instincts that make us dangerous to enemies make us incredibly loyal to allies." Jake's communicator chimed with an urgent message. "Captain," came Amy Chen's voice, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Rodriguez wants to speak with you immediately." "Patch her through to the conference room," Jake said. He turned to the alien ambassadors. "Would you like to hear what Earth has to say about recent events?" The three aliens followed Jake and Helen to the conference room, where Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the main screen. Her face was serious but proud. "Jake, I've been fielding communications from across the galaxy. In the past week, we've received over 200 requests for human assistance with pirate problems, border disputes, and protection services." Jake felt a weight settle on his shoulders. 200 requests? "It gets more interesting," Rodriguez continued. "The Veltar have formally requested Earth Protectorate status. They want us to guarantee their safety permanently. 3 other species have made similar requests." Helen looked at the alien ambassadors who were listening with great interest. "Admiral," Jake said, "what does Earth Command think about this?" "We think the galaxy just learned something important about human nature," Rodriguez replied. "For 50 years we've been trying to prove we belong in galactic civilization. Now we've proved we're essential to it." Ambassador Jikral stepped forward. "Admiral Rodriguez, my people have a question. The Kethvar Syndicate had been terrorizing this sector for decades. Council fleets fought them before and failed to stop them. How did 600 humans succeed where thousands of Council soldiers failed?" Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. "Ambassador, the difference is motivation. Council forces fight to maintain order and protect trade routes. Humans fight to protect innocent people from harm. When you're fighting for someone else's life, you fight differently." "How differently?" asked Counselor Tavera. "You saw the recordings," Jake said. "When Captain Foster rammed her ship through the pirate flagship, she wasn't thinking about tactics or strategy. She was thinking about Veltar children in cages, about gentle people being hurt by monsters. That makes humans very dangerous enemies." Representative Kix consulted his datapad. "Our analysis suggests this incident will change galactic politics significantly. Criminal organizations that have operated freely for centuries now face a new threat. Peaceful species who thought they were helpless now have potential protectors." "What about the Council?" Helen asked. "How are they responding to this?" Admiral Rodriguez smiled grimly. "The Council is discovering that bureaucracy has its limitations. They're forming committees to study the human response to the Kepler 442b situation. Meanwhile, more distress calls are coming in every day from species under attack. "And we're responding to them?" Jake asked. "Everyone we can reach," Rodriguez confirmed. "The Righteous Fury and Shieldbearer launched this morning to help the Zephyrian Collective deal with raiders. The Defender and Guardian are heading to the Outer Rim to investigate reports of slave ships. Jake looked at Helen, then at the 3 alien ambassadors who were listening with fascination. "Admiral," he said, "I think we need to talk about what Earth's role in the galaxy is going to be going forward. I think the galaxy has already decided that for us, Jake, we're not just another council member anymore. We're the people other species call when they need help that can't wait for committees and paperwork." As the transmission ended, Ambassador Jukral turned to Jake with something that might have been respect in his alien eyes. "Captain Morrison, my people have been warriors for 10,000 years. We thought we understood what strength meant. Today we learned that true strength is not the ability to fight, but the willingness to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." Jake looked out the conference room window at the green world below, where Veltar families were being reunited, and gentle plant growers were learning that there were people in the universe who would risk everything to keep them safe. The galaxy was changing, and humans were at the center of that change, not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they were the ones who answered when innocent people called for help. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442b, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Defender of Worlds. The ship was twice the size of his old Frontier Dawn, built specifically for the new mission that humans had taken on in the galaxy. Through the wide bridge windows he could see 12 other Earth ships in formation around him, the Human Protection Fleet. "Admiral," said Commander Ryan Phillips, who had been promoted to serve as Jake's second in command, "we're receiving that transmission from the Zephyrian Collective." Jake nodded. "Put it through." The alien that appeared on the main screen was tall and thin, with silver skin and 4 arms. His species were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful scholars and researchers, people who spent their lives studying history and art. Now his large eyes were filled with the same fear Jake had seen in the Veltar transmission 6 months ago. "Please," the Zephyrian said, his voice shaking. "If anyone receives this message, we need help. The Harketh Empire has invaded our worlds. They are burning our libraries, destroying our art, taking our people as slaves. We have no weapons, no soldiers. We are teachers and students, not warriors. Please, send the humans." Jake felt the familiar cold anger settle in his chest. The Harketh Empire was worse than pirates. They were conquerors who destroyed entire cultures for sport, who took pride in wiping out knowledge and history. "Ryan, how long to reach the Zephyrian worlds?" 4 days at maximum speed, Admiral." Jake turned to his communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Chen. "Send word to the fleet. All ships prepare for immediate departure." "And Amy?" "Yes, sir. Send a message to the Harketh Empire. Tell them they have 72 hours to withdraw from Zephyrian space or they'll be dealing with us." As his fleet prepared to depart, Jake thought about how much had changed since that first desperate call from Kepler 442b. The Human Protection Fleet now consisted of 15 ships and over 3,000 personnel. They had responded to 47 distress calls, liberated 12 worlds from various threats, and destroyed 6 different criminal organizations. More importantly, they had done something no one expected. They had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Dr. Helen Parker approached Jake as he reviewed tactical reports. She had become the fleet's chief xenobiologist and cultural advisor, helping human forces understand the species they were protecting. "Jake," she said, "I've been studying the reports from our previous missions. Do you realize what we've accomplished?" "We've helped some people who needed help," Jake replied simply. "It's more than that," Helen insisted. "We've created a new model for galactic civilization. For 10,000 years, the strong have preyed on the weak while the Galactic Council held meetings and passed resolutions. Now, for the first time, there's a force in the galaxy that protects people simply because it's the right thing to do." Jake looked at the tactical display showing his fleet's formation, ships named Righteous Fury, Shield-Bearer Guardian, and Protector, vessels designed not for conquest or profit, but for defense of those who couldn't defend themselves. "Admiral," came a voice from the communication station, "we're getting a response from the Harketh Empire." The face that appeared on screen was reptilian, with cold yellow eyes and scarred green scales. When he spoke, his voice was filled with arrogant confidence. "I am War Commander Skathak of the Harketh Empire. You humans have gained some reputation as fighters, but you face a real military force now, not disorganized pirates. We have 200 ships and 50,000 soldiers in Zephyrian space. Withdraw or be destroyed." Jake looked at the alien commander for a long moment. Commander, you have 71 hours and 58 minutes to evacuate Zephyrian space. After that, we will remove you. The reptilian commander's eyes narrowed. 15 ships against 200? You humans are either very brave or very stupid. We're humans protecting innocent people from bullies, Jake replied calmly. That makes us very dangerous. As the transmission ended, Jake turned to address his bridge crew. These were people who had volunteered for the most hazardous duty in human space, protecting aliens they had never met from threats they couldn't predict. They did it not for money or glory, but because someone had to. Amy.
Open a channel to the fleet. Channel open?
Admiral. Jake looked at the faces of his crew, then at the tactical display showing the Zephyrian system, where peaceful scholars were being terrorized by military conquerors. All ships. This is Admiral Morrison. 3 days from now, we'll be facing the largest force we've ever encountered. 200 ships, 50,000 soldiers, professional military with advanced weapons. They think they can intimidate us because they have superior numbers. Jake paused, thinking about the Veltar children they had freed from cages, about the gentle plant growers who now lived safely under human protection. They're wrong. Numbers don't matter when you're fighting for something bigger than yourself. We're not fighting for territory or resources or political power. We're fighting for people who study art and history, who spend their lives learning and teaching, who never hurt anyone. Jake looked around his bridge at faces he knew and trusted completely. The Harketh Empire is about to learn what every bully in the galaxy has learned over the past 6 months. You can be bigger, stronger, and better armed than humans, but if you hurt innocent people in front of us, none of that will save you. The human protection fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading toward their largest battle yet. Behind them, the Veltar colony on Kepler 442b continued its peaceful existence, protected now by the promise that if anyone threatened them again, humans would answer the call. In systems across the galaxy, other species watched the news reports and felt something they hadn't experienced in centuries. Hope. Hope that there was finally someone in the universe who would fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. The Galactic Council continued holding meetings and forming committees, but everyone knew the real power had shifted. When innocent people called for help, it wasn't the Council they hoped would answer. It was the humans. 3 days later, the human protection fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Zephyrian space. On sensors, they could see the massive Harketh fleet in orbit around the Scholar worlds, already beginning their systematic destruction of one of the galaxy's greatest centers of learning. Admiral, reported Ryan Phillips. Enemy fleet consists of 212 vessels. They're jamming communications from the surface, but we're detecting weapons fire on the major continents. Jake studied the tactical display. 200 ships against 15. By any conventional military analysis, this should be a massacre. The Harketh were right about one thing. They were a professional, military force with advanced weapons and experienced commanders. But they had made the same mistake every enemy of humanity had made in the past 6 months. They thought humans fought like other species. For logical reasons like territory and resources, they didn't understand that humans became something entirely different when innocent people needed protection. All ships, Jake announced calmly. Attack Formation Delta. Target their troop transports first. Let's get those soldiers away from the civilians. Amy, send one final message to the Harketh commander. Channel open, Admiral. Jake looked at the massive enemy fleet and felt the cold certainty that had carried him through 47 previous battles. War Commander Siskathak, this is your final warning. Withdraw now or face the consequences. The scholars of the Zephyrian Collective called for help and Earth's people answered. You're in our way. The response came back immediately, filled with scornful laughter. 15 ships, human fool. You will be destroyed in minutes. Jake smiled grimly. Ryan, you may fire when ready. The Battle of Zephyrian space began with a single human ship, the Guardian, flying directly into the center of the massive Harketh formation. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The scholars had called for help, and the humans had answered. That was all that mattered.